Hello and welcome to my channel Polyglot Reading. This is the third video in a series of videos where I'm going to read in reverse chronological order the 100 best science fiction novels according to the list of David Pringle. So this is the third episode of this series. So and today I'm talking about the novel by Michael Bishop, No Enemy But Time. Let's start by talking about the plot. What is this novel all about? So the story describes a journey back in time as part of a paleontological experiment to explore the roots of modern humanity, the life and behavior of our ancestors in East Africa some 2 million years ago, at a time when Homo sapiens did not yet exist, but several other hominid species with very different biological characteristics and different cultural forms. And so the time traveler is a young man named Joshua Campa, who recounts as a first person narrator his journey to this specific region in Eastern Africa and to the area of the Lake Kiboko in the fictional East African state of Zarakal, which must be located more or less in the border region between the real life countries of Kenya and Uganda. And Joshua describes in a vivid and very impressive way his efforts to get in touch, to survive in this environment, and then to get in touch with a group of hominids, and how this group initially rejects him and regards him as an enemy, but later they hesitantly accept him, and until in the end he's more or less fully accepted as a member of this group and is even starting a relationship with one of the women of this tribe or group. And he's going to live with this tribe and sharing all their joys and challenges, their daily life. And so this personal relations or societal relations part of the plot is very well constructed, and it's exciting. Also, alongside with the description of the tribe's daily life, which is very realistically described. And this is driven primarily by their daily struggle for survival, for finding water and finding food, for protect themselves from predators such as hyenas and cheetahs and so on, or also for against the deadly threats of injuries or diseases that we modern humans have completely lost sight of because we have easy measures to cure, to prevent or to cure these diseases. So all of this is described in a very credible and consistent and vivid manner, as are also the social dynamics within this group that Joshua Campa has joined. So the, the, the different forms of family relationships, hierarchies, social roles and functions, rules, rituals, and taboos. Some of it familiar to our ideas of these things, something completely strange and different. So all this also is well done. Also well done is the first-hand description of this mixture of alienation and fascination of Joshua Campa when facing and understanding or trying to understand the way of life of these hunters and gatherers society. This strange mixture of sometimes great closeness on the one hand, because this society clearly has some typically human traits that we consider essential for us human beings today as well, but also sometimes there are suddenly emerging great divides that highlight the enormous vast difference between the way of thinking and life of our ancestors and us modern humans. All this is very well done. It's gripping and entertaining. Um, One small criticism of this part of the narrative. So the author Michael Bishop does not entirely escape the trap of sugarcoating this group of hominids that Joshua Campa has joined. I think he falls into the trap of this idealized and romanticized cliche of the noble savage, the unspoiled people of the past. And this is an image of the past that has haunted the Western world since I think, 16th century, since the French essayist Michel de Montaigne coined this term, the noble savage. And then later, also French Jean-Jacques Rousseau popularized it with his back to nature philosophy. So these stereotypes of a supposedly very peaceful life in harmony with nature that people thought had existed in the past, and thought that it would exist still today among the so-called primitive peoples of today, such a society without crime, a society of innocence, idyllic, ethical integrity, occasionally spiced with some voyeuristic fantasies of sexual liberties and so on. So today we know very well that all this is an illusion. It has always been. Research into early human history and into the so-called primitive people of our time has long since proven otherwise. And that had also been the case 40 years ago when this novel was written. But this cliche is still very widespread in the midst of the general public, and Michael Bishop was not immune to it either. So um, some cruelties are described in this novel, such as the hunting and eating of other primates, of other apes, of other apes, and the killing of babies from other hominid tribes. But all these cruelties are not committed by Joshua's group, but by other hominid groups belonging to species that later died out, were extinct, and are not direct ancestors of Homo sapiens. So, but that's probably nitpicking from my side. Perhaps I approached this science fiction genre with too high an expectation on scientific accuracy because of the term science fiction. However, these chapters with the first-person narrative of Joshua Kampa about his experience in the African Pleistocene some 2 million years ago, they alternate with chapters in which the childhood and youth of Joshua Kampa are recounted from the perspective of an omniscient narrator, so not first-person narrator Joshua Kampa himself. So, and here we learn that Joshua is actually the son of a Spanish prostitute and an African client of hers. And at the age of about 2 years, really just out of economic desperation, his mother had handed him over in a sort of a cloak and dagger operation to the daughters of some American soldiers stationed in Spain. And so Joshua grows up with American adoptive parents or foster parents. And early on, Joshua stands out for a special characteristic or talent or an infliction. Namely, he has a particularly vivid and impressive dreams in which almost like trance-like state of mind in which he finds himself transported back in time into primeval African landscape, living among the primitive people there and familiar with the local flora and fauna in detail. And when he becomes a teenager, he is able to confirm using textbooks from about prehistoric things that actually what he sees it is matching what the actual researchers have found out. So there's some supernatural element here, not just dreams, and and this brings him into the spotlight for some scientists, and this qualifies him in particular to undertake this journey through time on behalf of a joint American-African research project, which is being driven forward by one of the world's leading paleontologists, who is also a master of political intrigue in order to achieve his goals to install Joshua in this specific African hotspot, and where I can then go back in time. The dream episodes are also an interesting example of how the author is handling this time travel paradox, and how he keeps the reader in suspense as how to solve this problem. I think this is always a core issue of all time travel stories. What paradox emerges out of this time travel situation? The reader is left a little in the dark about what these dreams are all about and how this links to a time, or how can help to solve the time paradox. One thought that is triggered in the reader's mind by some little hints here and there is, for example, as follows. Maybe these dreams are something like prenatal memories. So in the inner logic of the story, the time travel took place about 2 million years before Joshua's birth. So one possible explanation would be that in some way they had left a trace in his memory before his birth, so that even as a child he remembers this events from 2 million years in the past, and which he then will experience as real only as an adult in the future. So the fact that this is precisely these dreams about the past that bring Joshua to the attention of the scientists, and this is also the feature that qualifies him for this time travel. So this, of course, also a clever but somewhat paradoxical argument of circular logic. So, but it's an entertaining twist to this line of thought. So kindly, a bishop does not leave the mystery of the time travel paradox completely unresolved. He provides a reasonably plausible explanation towards the end of the book, which I will not reveal here, of course. This part of the story of the growing up of Joshua Kampa, and also about how he prepares for this time travel, this is also um, told with a good dose of humor. For example, in preparation of his life among these prehistoric hominids, John undergoes a circumcision ritual on the advice of his indigenous mentor, who is a member of one of the last more natural tribes living in that area. And as luck would have it, a bus carrying American tourists on safari stops at the location where the circumcision ritual ceremony is taking place. And so in addition to the embarrassment of being gawked at as a curiosity, like a strange zoo animal, the author also does not spare the biting mockery of the behavior of elderly American female tourists who are eager to get their hands on a blood-stained piece of clothing as a souvenir of their attendance to this atavistic ritual. Ironically, though, it later turns out that Joshua is the only circumcised man among all the hominids, which again makes him a gawked at curiosity there as well. I won't reveal exactly what Joshua experiences in the African Paleozoic area, what highs and lows and conflicts he goes through, but I can say that all this is written in such a way that you won't be able to put the novel down, but you will want to keep reading. All in all, this is a nice and enjoyable science fiction novel with an original take on the theme of time travel, namely to a prehistoric past, spiced with a lot of suspense and humor. It's really an entertaining read. So after the disappointment by John Calvin Batchelor's Rise and Fall of the People's Republic of Antarctica, it was a real relief to read this book. Uh, Only one slight downside. I found the last chapter, the last percent of the novel, the life of Joshua Kampa after his return from the time travel. I found this very weak and artificial and completely unnecessary. So one could get the impression that the author was forced by his editor or publisher to add a longer epilogue, but I don't think that he should have done so. It doesn't add anything to the story, it rather damages it a little bit. But apart from that, apart from the final 10%, Michael Bishop, No Enemy But Time, a highly recommended reading. Okay, thanks for watching this video. I'm eager to know whether you know these novels or whether I have been able to raise your interest in reading it. Let me know in the comments. Have a great reading time. Take care. Bye-bye and ciao.